this webinar in looking at what a company is looking for in MBA participants. So what skills are they expecting an MBA graduate to bring onto the table when they join the companies? So I hope at the end of this, let's say we will take it like this, maybe about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I will share some thoughts with you. Then I open up for questions. So we look at one single broad question: what are companies looking for when they hire MBA graduates to their organizations? That is our main question. Now, there have been a few studies, surveys conducted. All right, let me just see my slides. All right, so let me raise a question to you. You can put it in the chat box if you're able to put in the chat box. According to you, what do you think are some skills that organizations look for in an MBA? Take a minute, use your chat box, and then just share in the chat box what you think are some of those skills that companies are looking for in MBAs. Can you share that in your yeah, all right. So I see messages in chat box. Okay, right, good. We have more feedback coming in. Just as it comes into your mind, please go ahead. Everyone can share. We will build on that. We'll try to make it a bit more interactive from the beginning itself. Yeah, Sudhish tells us agility, proactiveness, innovative mindset, and ready to work steady. Agility, proactiveness, innovative mindset, and ready to work steady. Yeah, so there, I mean, these are very, very bang on target in one way. Though we use certain different terms, we are exactly some of those qualities that companies are looking for. Now, see, here is a survey globally conducted among employers. We have a comparison here within the survey in 2015 vis-a-vis 2020. What are those workplace success skills? So you expect if people display these skills, they are going to be successful in organizations. And we will, get deeper into some of these during this session. That's my intention primarily. If you look at, you see, so this was saying about, cognitive flexibility, agility, flexibility, right? Innovative mindset, creativity, and ability to solve problems. You find these skills. In fact, top 10 of them are given here. You'll find many of them are repeating. Of course, there are some new ones that are also coming in. For example, emotional intelligence was not there earlier. Now in 2020, you can find emotional intelligence as a major skill. What we can do in the coming, let's say about 20 minutes, we will look at some of those examples there companies are actually looking for, and the companies are in fact putting into practice some of the skills in real display. Let me take what we'll do. I'll just list the first one. Even 5 years back and even today seem to be complex problem solving. Companies are expecting managers to have these skills in terms of complex problem solving skills. Critical thinking, which was the fourth position, is now come to the second position. Creativity has always been there earlier, but now it seems to be more a required skill. People management skills has always been there earlier, even today. And collaborating and coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, and ability to make decisions, make judgments and make decisions, and service orientation, and negotiation skills, and finally, your flexibility to think differently in different situations, all that. Now let's look at this first thing, a complex problem solving. What is meant by complex problem solving? We'll take a few examples. Now, for example, an automobile industry. We were talking a little earlier about automobile industry. Automobile industry today, any leading player in automobile industry is worried, not exactly worried about another automobile company. They are worried about IT companies. They are worried about sometimes electronic goods companies, because some of those technological developments that are happening in automobile industry is expected to make car look very different, or the way you maneuver car is going to be. They're talking about driverless cars. They're talking about cars that are going to be on call. So when you the cars that are connected cars. So this is by and large technology. So a car dashboard, I mean, dashboard is going to be more of a computer rather than a mechanical. So car is going to be lesser and lesser of the mechanical part of it, but more and more of the electronics and computing part of it. That is how it is evolving. Now, given that kind of a change, how would a new person getting recruited in the company think very differently from very traditionally the way of thinking? So how do you solve that kind of a problem where a competition is maybe Amazon? You are a Toyota, but your competition is Amazon. Your competition is maybe a Google. Your competition, of course, is maybe a Tesla. So it's not the traditional players that you're competing with. So how do you use technology? How do you use analytics, the data that is available, and how are you even supposed to see the bigger picture? We'll take two relatively small examples. During this pandemic, if you are in a hotel and if you're managing, for example, a hotel property, how do you address this problem? Because in the immediate future, you can't expect people to come into hotels. Travels are down. Businesses are not really happening so much. People are largely working from home. And then if you're a hotel, maybe in a city like Bangalore, Mumbai, and other places, how do you see this bigger picture and then find out some kind of a solution? And maybe your creative thinking has to come into this place. And let's say if you are a shoe selling company, you are selling shoes, and people generally like to see the fit, how shoes fit on their foot, and then try to make a decision. Where other stuff they may buy, apparel they usually buy maybe online, but then when it comes to shoe buying, they probably would like to go check it out and then buy. Then how do you then sell shoes during this pandemic if it stretches? And that is where these days, if you look at it, hotels have come out with this concept of workation. Some of you must have heard about this workation. Now, what are they talking when they're saying workation? They're saying you used to probably come for a vacation somewhere. Now we know as a family you are tied up at home, you're working from home. But then you can possibly come to a hotel. We can. So this is appealing to the local people who are in that particular city only, but working from home. So come with your family for and rent our facilities. You can work, you can stay in the hotel, you can make use of our facilities. It's not going to be crowded. You can practice social distancing, everything, but at the same time we'll give you all connectivity, all facilities. So the whole concept of a hotel, you are trying to reconfigure and present it for a different scenario, different situations. So you'll have to come out with creative ways of solving problems and make use of technology. You may also use some kind of analytics, find out maybe a city like Bangalore, more of IT professionals, and there are a significant number who are working from home. Therefore, you would launch this for certain property, maybe in some cities like Bangalore or Pune or like that, because there is significant percentage of technology professionals. They can work from anywhere. So are we able to see this problem, complex problem, see the big picture, make use of tools and techniques, data, technology, and then try to solve this problem? So this ability to see the bigger picture is something that companies are looking for in people more and more. And the shoe example that I was telling you, so if you are able to suggest to the shoe seller that we can have an app where people can actually share their measurements. They can take photographs, maybe 20 different photographs from 20 different angles, so that and they can also, using some augmented reality, see how their feet look after they wear those shoes. And based on that, they can place an order. And in that case, there's very little chance that that shoe does not fit them. Because you have taken 20 different measurements from different angles, and then you have made sure that the specific color, they can wear it and see virtually using some augmented reality, and they can take pictures, all that, and share, ask opinion from maybe friends who are connected, and then based on that, they can place an order. So then it becomes more of you are solving a problem which has come out of maybe this kind of pandemic kind of a scenario, or because people have very little time to go about to places and then purchase. But then you have come out with a creative solution for that problem, a complex problem solving, right? And the second skill that people are looking for you in is critical thinking. And the companies are looking for people who can think critically. We know these are days of a lot of fake news, the days of post-truth. So a lot of times we don't know whether we are seeing the data that we are seeing, the information that is coming to us is true or false. So if we jump into conclusion and take decisions based on some hearsay, a lot of times we fail miserably. So organizations are looking for people who look at data and then think. So you have a problem, you think. So I heard of the old cartoon, song. When you have a problem, think. So think and then make decisions. So sometimes even data can mislead us. That is that's the issue. Now, for example, if you are a manager and you are evaluating people who are really good performers in your team, and then you look at the past 3 years data and you do proper, you work proper mining of that data, slicing of that data, and then finally you come to a conclusion that the best performers in my team are predominantly people with 3 to 5 years of work experience. uh, Joining the institute, company from, let's say, top 20 B schools, and then they are also mainly men. So you have that data. Tomorrow, what you are going to do is you are going to look for some people with a few years of work experience in top B schools and predominantly male applicants. The problem might be the data that you looked at. So that can mislead you, in fact, that your data tells you predominantly men, 2 to 3 years of work experience and from a reputed B school. Or you are going by what the data says. But in reality, you might make a mistake because the data that you used had 90% men, 10% women. That data is going to tell you high performers are going to be predominantly men. But if you don't think, why have I got this kind of output? Because my data has got 90% men and 10% women, then I'm going to get best performance predominantly men, because the data is very highly skewed. So therefore, we should not jump into conclusions and solutions the moment we have a problem, or even data we have to use. Even if data is there, we'll have to critically think. See, am I looking at the right data? So this is the ability to think critically rather than go by just whatever you hear, whatever people say, even what data that you are using. So data can also mislead you. To that extent, you must be able to think critically. And organizations appreciate people who think critically, and then rather than just go ahead executing. Of course, you'll have to execute. People with execution skills are necessary. That is imperative that you are able to put things into practice. But are you able to think critically so that you don't make foolish mistakes? The next skill that we talk about is creativity. Now, creativity, as we know, is your ability to do things differently. Maybe you can be more creative every day if you are doing things differently from what you have been doing in the past. And now, how do we, in fact, benefit? How do businesses benefit if you are creative? See, in fact, a few months back, I went to Amazon website, Amazon app. So browsing for some products, I suddenly find that the initial screen, as soon as I clicked on the app, the screen opened and told me Happy Father's Day. Now, how did they know that I'm a father? How did they know that I have kids? I am married, a dad with kids, all that. How did they come to know? And not only that, they know that I am, married and I have kids. They're also suggesting for my high school kid what I can give, my UP primary school kid what I can give. Maybe as a responsible husband, what I can buy for the family. So the entire screen was taking me through a journey linked to my own personal life. As for my members in my family, for my wife, for my kids, and for my home, what I can meaningfully buy during this Father's Day. Now, your ability to meaningfully connect with people, thinking very creatively rather than so the typical Amazon website was presenting a list of products and some promo. But that day for me looked very different. And that story, taking me through that story of a dad's, connection with members at home and family engaged me very much. So someone in the company has thought about this. And this is required for employees these days. Am I able to think creatively in such a way that I'm able to engage my customers, my other stakeholders, right? The uh, next important skill, so that's ability to think creatively as a manager. The next important skill is ability to manage people. Is your company, are you as a manager able to, you know, take care of your people, manage your people, handle your people, depending on different folks need different strokes, so different people would need different kind of, approach. Somebody may need a push, somebody may need some motivation, somebody may need some education, somebody may need empowerment. All right, somebody may need some reward for them to be active and participative. So therefore, are you a manager who is able to understand what exactly people need in your organization? We have very many examples. If you look at even when Microsoft was a startup, Bill Gates used to say, our company exists to serve the engineer, because Bill Gates knew that Microsoft is a product company. They will have good technology products. Their product is going to be only as good as their people, their engineers. So they said they are there to serve the engineer. So if their engineers are able to do well, company will have great products. And if they have great products, they will be in a position to capture the market. As you need not necessarily be thinking only in terms of maybe a large IT firm to take care of people. It could also be, let's look at the online, food delivery apps. We found examples like Zomato, Food Panda, and then you had this third or fourth player who got into the market was Swiggy, a Bangalore-based company. We saw Swiggy from day one. Now, when you had Swiggy entering into this market, what literally happened was when every other player had outsourced their delivery, Swiggy owned the delivery. Of course, the restaurants, none of them own. The app is what they own. So other companies had this practice of having everything outsourced, whereas Swiggy decided that delivery people will be managed by the companies, will be owned by the companies. So the delivery chain was owned by Swiggy. As a result of it, what happened? When they motivated, when they trained, when they rewarded, educated, empowered these delivery guys properly, Swiggy delivery became far much better than other players in the market, maybe a Zomato or any other people in the market. And therefore, because there was no major difference in food, because all the restaurants that you were there, most of the restaurants were in Swiggy, whether in Zomato or whether in Food Panda or any other place. But Swiggy made a better, performance when it came to delivery. So that was possible because they were able to manage their people well. So every manager who is able to manage Suppose you are in a bank, if you're able to manage your people in that particular branch, or you're a retail outlet in a charge of a particular category, if you're able to manage the people in that category well, that will speak for the through the performance of the organization, right? So there are many examples of uh, entrepreneurial firms which are able to manage their people well, are able to do better in in business. So companies expect their new recruitees, especially young managers, to be able to handle, have great people management and relationship skills. Another very important skill today, especially because the technology is so different and you need a lot of solutions are complex, you need multiple partners to collaborate. And are you able to collaborate with people is a very important skill or an ability that companies are looking for in MBAs. Because a lot of times uh, you may be, as we were saying earlier, you may be a very large company which is into, let's say, an FMCG business for a long time or auto industry for a long time. But these newer developments that are happening maybe in a totally different sector. That development is happening in information technology, embedded systems. It may be happening in computing. It may be happening in analytics. So, and there again, there are specific areas maybe. So no single company is in a position to be master of everything. So if you have to have a great product today or a great service today, you'll have to collaborate with many parties. So as an MBA graduate who is in a company, are you able to collaborate well with parties outside your organization, people who are in other departments in your organization? Now, if you're able to do that, you are possibly going to do much better. For example, one of the oldest FMCG companies, Procter and Gamble, has a separate program called Connect and Develop. This is a global program for anything that they do, not necessarily for product development. It can be for marketing, it can be for distribution, it can be for anything. Can you collaborate with somebody, find some good idea, and then implement that in our organization? So that's collaborate and develop. So we have an example of a hospital, which eye care hospital, which wants to be established in rural India. If you want to take healthcare to rural India, you have to collaborate with so many people. Because just look at the availability of doctors. Doctors like to work in the cities because their kids would get better education in the city. And if you are a person who wants to establish some hospital chains in rural India or semi-urban India, you will have to attract doctors to that place. You will have to have somebody who would promote your hospital in that place, and those cannot be full-time employees because the catchment area is relatively small. So you will not be able to have full-time employees in your company. You may have to outsource that. Sometimes this healthcare program may have to be, or your healthcare services that you have given may have to be promoted door to door. And in the rural place, outsiders are not welcome. Only a familiar face is welcome. So if you're going from the city and you're going to rural households, they will not welcome you. They're not happy. They are skeptical. So there, even for your salesperson, you will need to have some local person and acceptable, and they cannot be full-time employees. Sometimes you have to collaborate with maybe ASHA workers, LIC agents. So a lot of collaboration may be required in organizations which want, because of the complexity that you have, maybe product complexities, technological complexity, as we said, market complexity, like in the rural market, if you want to grow all that, right? So those are, this is a very relevant skill that organizations are looking for. And of course, we can't highlight emotional intelligence these days, especially when we have more and more people, especially youngsters, are falling prey for, depression and, emotional imbalances. We hear celebrities to, young kids who are falling prey for emotional imbalances and depressive experiences, all that. So besides your cognitive abilities or your ability to solve bigger problems, all that we were saying, companies are looking for people who are balanced, people who are See, all those earlier skills that we're talking about, we'll be able to collaborate with people, we will be able to solve maybe complex problems, we will be able to manage people, maybe only if we are also balanced as individuals. Now, this balance in our emotions, in our behavior, and in our workplace. Of course, we can read and study in detail about emotional intelligence. MBA course programs do have that. The flow is like, am I aware of myself? Am I aware of the society? Am I able to manage myself well? Am I able to manage my relationship well? And therefore, can I do well? And then people along with me be able to do well. So if you are in a team, can you, or you are in an organization, are you really disciplined? Are you able to manage your own work? Are you able to help and work with others because you can manage their, you can manage your relationship with them? And finally, can you manage the work for the organization? So unless you are balanced, you will goof up everywhere if you are not managing yourself well. So managing self, especially requiring emotional intelligence, higher intelligence, emotional intelligence, for you to in fact do well in organizations, right? A lot of times, a high IQ, uh, necessarily mean that you are a good manager. So a lot of time you may be a very good individual performer in organizations, you may be a poor manager. So to be a good manager, you should not be easily distracted. You should not be easily, shaken at failures also, because people who are pretty entrepreneurial will come across some failures in organizations. You go ahead. By the time if you are shaken, totally tarnished, then you will not be able to take the team along. The next skill that is highly valued is your individual independent decision making skills. Now, if you need a lot of hand holding everywhere, then that is not appreciated. Given a direction and training, can you be hands on? Can you make certain decisions on your own? Now, so as we were saying earlier, if yours is that hotel property, can you come out with something that can be really going to work in this market, convince your management and implement it? Will you be able to do that? If if you have that decision making skills, and if you can put that decision into practice, then you would be an amazing manager. Here's some example. Let's look at retail outlets. Now, these retail outlets have been affected badly as a result of this pandemic. Now, do you have some alternatives for this? Alternatives for these retail outlets during this pandemic? Can you put it into practice? Or another example was this: a lot of people found it difficult to go to parlors and saloons for grooming during this pandemic. And you suddenly find this urban company, urban club. Earlier they used to be for, they were primarily for some carpentry work, some plumbing work, some fixing work that has to be done at home, some electric work. Then they would send to a technician. They added people who were hairdressing guys and others, and personal grooming guys, and they can keep on adding anything. Like if someone wants to take your dog for a walk, all this can be, you don't want to go out, so you decide something can be very suitable for this environment, this context, and it's going to be profitable for the company, is going to be adding revenue to the company, and then you introduce it. So you are able to execute it. In the sense, this is additional provision is given in your app for, and promotion is done to all those people who are registered in your app about this new service. As a result of which, you get a critical mass of people who will be adopting this technology, and then this new solution that you are providing for maybe hair, over the dressing or grooming, personal grooming, or for pet care, all that is taken care of by maybe urban club. You can think of that. And of course, your presentability, your ability, your skills in terms of largely what is known, a lot of soft skills. That is not a service orientation. Today we call it a service orientation. Earlier we call it a soft skills. Because if you have to, service as we know is people heavy. You will have to interact with people in most of the services. And in such cases, are you a good communicator? Are you a good listener? Are you able to listen patiently and respond? Are you able to listen empathically and respond? At the same time, when situations comes, are you assertive? A lot of soft skills that you're talking about, particularly this attitude that you can be with people, you can take responsibility. Same time, you can listen to people and communicate clearly. These skills are essential, and sometimes a sense of humor also that make people comfortable. Even when tasks are difficult, it's the service guy is pretty comfortable, or the sales guy is pretty comfortable to share your problem. Do you have such a service orientation? Because many of these roles, especially a young manager's position, you will definitely have a customer interacting role or some important stakeholder interacting role. So this is called the boundary spanning role in an organization. So when you're a boundary spanner, what is the kind of relationship that you're building? That relationship building will depend a lot on your soft skills. Are you creating a positive image of the company, or are you creating a negative image of the company? Are you making more and more comfortable for people to interact with your organization? Are you making it more difficult for people to interact with your organization? So that service orientation with spreads positive image about the organization and its people, so that the customer feel like going back. Some places we avoid going because we don't like the people there, because their interaction is not good. But some places we would like to go back again and again, maybe because the people there are highly service oriented. So you feel very comfortable going back to that particular outlet, going back to that particular clinic, or going back to that particular retail shop or whatever. Right. So a service orientation is extremely relevant, a skill that managers need to have. And of course, in business organizations, you are delivering value. At the same time, people who are interacting with you are coming to you because they want to create value for themselves. So you have to create value for the company, and the people who are interacting with the vendors, or be it anybody who is associating with you, or even your customers, are there to maximize their value. So therefore you should be in a position to practice proper negotiation, flexible where you need to be flexible, assertive where you need to be assertive. So your negotiation skills, where you could be flexible and rendering that extra mile when you have to when you have that skill and that can add value to your client. At the same time, able to be assertive when it comes to the value that you need to capture, maybe in terms of the role that the client has to play, or the payment terms, as well as the prices that the client has to pay. All those will have to be negotiated and then settled properly. So this negotiation skill is an important skill that we expect, that every, especially young managers, need to have. And finally, so this is the 10th most important skill that they spoke about, your cognitive flexibility, your ability to be different in even in your thinking, rather than being very routine. Can I do things somewhat differently? You found how, for example, the entire service ecosystem during this pandemic showed excellent cognitive flexibility. Large number of organizations moved seamlessly to online and then face to face. For example, you have, look at universities. Many of the universities in the world, be it Harvard, be it Wharton, be it NM, or any university in the world, quickly had to adapt to this new scenario. But it was not like what a Coursera would do, where deep learning will not be possible. Now, for example, management education is very difficult to be given if in a totally asynchronous manner. You need to have some synchronous manner, because you need to have real-time interaction that is happening. Earlier, that real-time interaction used to be only in classroom. Now we say a good part of real-time interaction can meaningfully happen, face to face, through the medium, through the technology. Now, so therefore you find you should be in a position to have material that is suitable for that kind of a context. You need to build up certain skills that are used that new context of virtual real-time interaction. The content has to be shared in advance so that discussions can happen. You must be in a position to have peer groups that are discussing before class. During the class, you will be in a position to have breakout groups and maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes breakout group discussion. Suddenly everyone comes back to the large group. So you have a classroom of 60 people, create 15 different small groups. They discuss in their small group, come back to the classroom with their contribution, and the 60 people get together again and discuss. And you know, have intermittent, maybe intermittent questions raised, and then feedback collected from people. All these keep on happening as you go ahead during your session. Now that happens because you are ready to be flexible. The way you are delivering things, the way the content is delivered in a classroom now becomes very different a manner altogether, right? So these were the skills well researched and found that organizations are looking for in new managers in the global scenario in from MBA graduates. Now, how do let me, so the major part of my session is done by now. I only want to give an example how, for example, in NMIMS this is being practiced. Now if you look at the courses that we have, I'm just giving it as an example at NMIMS. You have these fundamentals of analytical skills, this negotiation and communication skills, these technology skills, and then this social skills, and their your ability to be hands-on. All these are captured in the courses that are being offered, and these courses are not being offered, just as theory. For example, the kind of pedagogy that is used. You have live cases that are being discussed, case studies that are being discussed, projects are discussed by the student, done by the students, and the learning from classroom, projects executed by the students, the case studies that are discussed in the class, the real life cases that students associate with. All this enable their knowledge, the skills, as well as bringing the right attitude that is required for participants. And if you look at the entire curriculum that we are, you don't have to go through the entire slide. The approach is a very comprehensive approach. How do you understand business? How do you understand management? And how do you understand organization? So the 2-year course that participants go through in NMIMS has got all these 3 dimensions very well captured. How do you perform within an organization? How do implement managerial activities, and how do you do it in such a way that it is relevant for businesses? And then these are staggered over a period of 6 trimesters. The foundation blocks knowledge building happen in the first trimester. Functional foundations is laid in the second trimester. Then in the third trimester you have understanding of a business organization or a large organization. How does it function, along with how socially sensitive businesses can be in a 3 weeks summer, 3 weeks weekend program, as well as 8 weeks summer internship program done in a company. So in the first year, you have the foundations of business and management done, and you also have an exposure to an NGO as well as a business organization through your internship and the 3-week program, internship program. Then when you come back in your second year, you get further depth in many areas of marketing, finance, HR, operations, analytics, all these areas. And so you get some functional specialization, deep knowledge also. And that makes you someone who is industry ready to be taking role of a manager. So as I was telling earlier, you have summer internship, weekly program, real life projects, as well as industry analysis. All these make your learning hands-on. And I was telling case studies, simulation, lectures, field work, group work, all these are done. And also there's a learning cycle that is followed where all participants prepare in advance, then come to the classroom, as I was telling, be it online or in a classroom. You have this preparation brought by 60 participants in a class will be discussed. They are further formed into small groups. The small groups discuss, and a lot of synthesis happen in the classroom. And that aha effect or a wow experience that happens in the class make you reflect and apply in your projects, apply in your groups and clubs and committees, apply it in live projects, all that, and again prepare for the next class. So this is how a learning cycle is practiced, right? So finally, let me tell you, it is not only about knowing. So your MBA program does not build only knowledge, it also skills you in doing and also enable you to be more emotionally intelligent, a better person to work with, a better manager who can handle organizational challenges. So with this, let me close my discussion. I would be open for any queries, questions that you would have on any of this what we discussed today. So let me stop the screen sharing, or maybe I'll reduce this. All right, yeah. So let me open the floor for any questions. Yeah, please go ahead. Have any questions? Oh, Sutish, I see you there, Sutish. Thank you very much. I reconnect very, very quickly with your face, Sutish. Yeah. Right.
Thanks a lot, sir. That's why I added my picture there.
Oh, great, great, Sutish. Such a great guy. I know we're doing a meaningful job as an alumnus. Wonderful, Sutish.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Right. It's always good that we cherish the experience that we have this our alumni.
Yeah, sir. And it's always good to hear you. And today's session also, if I can give a quick feedback before your students start asking questions, I think it makes a lot of sense in today's world that, we need to clearly understand what the organization needs are and accordingly prepare ourselves, because today the world is not the way it used to be 5 years or 10 years ago. It is much more fast paced. And when you are talking about thinking out of the box, being innovative, I think it's like it should happen just at the click of your fingers. It's like that. So yeah, things are quite fast paced, and I wish all the best that we get such kind of people from the college. So yeah, as sir rightly said that please ask questions to sir, please.
Yeah, please feel free. We are all learning, and we all have our own clarification that's required. Not necessarily we only confined to this. Only what I have spoken. If you think a little beyond this, also can be raised.
Sir, I think there are no questions.
Okay. Yeah.
So we could end the session.
Right.
So yeah. So once again, thank you, sir, for such an insightful session and sharing your experience and knowledge with us. We thank you all the wonderful participants for participating today. Hope the session has helped you solve all your queries and hope to see you all at NMIMS soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nedi. Thank you very much, Sudhish. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all participants. I hope that it was informative and useful for you, and make a good decision based on all this information that we discussed. Right. So, in case we don't have any queries, let me hang up. Thank you.